So the quadratic formula is this handy formula that we can use anytime we have a quadratic equation that's in standard form. And standard form is this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's what we call standard form. Notice it's equal to 0. That's kind of key there. So this is definitely something to memorize. For any quadratic equation that's in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, the solution is found by this formula. So once we know what a, b, and c are, we can plug them into this, all right? Now you got to memorize this, and I got a little song for you here, all right? You've actually known this song for a long time, since you were a little kid, you know. When you have the little Jack in the Box, and you remember the little Pop Goes the Weasel song? All right, well, here's how the song goes to help us remember. Ready? It goes like this: x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so one way to remember is that little ditty there. And so if you sing that over a few times, you'll have this down and you'll have it memorized. So here's how it works. So if we have a quadratic equation, this is in standard form, and we have our coefficients of 2 and the invisible 1, and c is negative 6. So those are in the a, b, and c spot. So that gives us a is 2, b is 1, and c is negative 6. So all we got to do is we got to write those. We got our formula. We say, what's our quadratic formula? Oh yeah, it's x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right. And then we just plug in numbers in their spot. All right. So we're going to plug in 1 everywhere there's a b. We're going to plug in 2 for all the a's. There they are. The 4 comes from the formula, the 2 comes from the formula, and then we got a c here, that's negative 6. Now, you just got to be careful with your order of operations here. If you're careful with your order of operations, then this is easy, all right? But there's a lot of mistakes that will happen right in here. Notice I put everything in parentheses. This is definitely something where you should write it out. Don't try to go plug all this in your calculator. You need to write it out. That's huge. And you should write it out very similar to what I just have printed here. Okay? So put the numbers in parentheses. Write it all out. Okay? And then go back and ask yourself, okay, well, this is negative 1. I don't really need those parentheses. What is 1 squared? It's 1. Now here, this is 4 times 2, which is 8, times negative 6, which is negative 48. And you can look at this a few ways, and hopefully with your experience in algebra, you realize this. You can think of this as a plus a negative 4, which is a whole lot safer, I think. All right, the formula we usually say is minus, but that's the same as adding negative 4. The key thing is that this is negative times negative. This whole thing is going to be positive. It's going to be positive 48. If you make a mistake, I would say, 8 times out of 10, the mistake will be right in here. And it'll be right with this sign. All right. Most people who make mistakes with quadratic formula make it right here. So 1 plus 48, is 49. Just copy everything else down. Again, don't jump too fast. Now, what does this mean? Well, this means we have 2 expressions. This is worth 2 things. We have the positive version. So we have plus negative 1 plus the square root of 49. Square root of 49 is 7. And then we have the minus version, negative 1 minus 7. Right? And all over 4. Okay, again, the more you write, it's actually quicker and safer. If you don't write things out, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to do the problem all over again. So you might as well write it out so you can see it and be safe and not make mistakes. Negative 1 plus 7 is 6 over 4. And that's going to simplify to 3 halves. 6/4 is 3 halves. Negative 1 minus 7 is negative 8 over 4. That's negative 2. There's our 2 answers. And that's the problem we just did earlier by completing the square. Now, it looks like a lot of steps here, but these are really quick and direct steps. They're really just all arithmetic here, all right? So we just plug in the A, B, and C to the formula and work it out. So let's try some out. Let's see more how it works, all right? Here we have an equation. It's already in standard form. So we take our quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And we've got our a, our b, and our c. C is negative 5, all right? So let's plug that in. So we have x equals negative b. What is b? b is 3. Then we have plus or minus the square root of b squared. What is b? 3. Minus 4 times a. What is a? It is 2. And c, which is negative 5. Don't forget to bring that negative sign with it. Okay, minus 5 is really the same as plus negative 5. Okay, adding negatives are the same as subtracting. And on the bottom we have 2a, which is 2 times 2. So that a is that 2. So there it is. Again, I strongly recommend you write this out. Now, depending on how good your arithmetic skills are, you can skip a few steps here and there. Okay, this really will go pretty fast. If your next thing is the answer, then I would be worried that you're probably going to make a lot of mistakes. All right, probably need at least a couple little lines. So this is negative 3 plus or minus. Now let's do the inside. This is 3 squared is 9 minus. Now this is negative 4. Think of that as plus negative 4 times 2. That's 8. 8 times 5 is 40. This is a negative times a negative. So this is going to be a plus 40 all over 4. And so this gives us x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of, well, we got 49 again, all over 4. Just combine those two things there, we got 49. Now this plus and minus means we have two possible answers. We've got x equals negative 3 plus the square root of 49 is 7 all over 4, or x equals negative 3 minus 7 all over 4. Okay, and then we simplify that and we get 4 over 4, which is 1. Simplify this, we get negative 10 over 4, which simplifies to negative 5 halves. There it is, two answers. And that's how the quadratic formula works. Now here's an interesting thought. Could we have got this answer by factoring? Well, the answer is yes, we could have. And we know we could have because these came out to be rational numbers. So anytime we end up with rational numbers, that means we could have factored it. So rational here meaning fractions, all right, or repeating decimals, but we're not going to mess with decimals. Okay, and it turns out that, let's see, 2x times x is x. There's only two things that multiply to negative 5, so I'm doing kind of a trial and error here. I know one of them is 5, one of them is 1. And so, you know, if we think carefully, I think if we put the 5 here and the 1 here, we need one of them to be positive. I need 3x is going to be positive, so I'm thinking that 5 to be positive. You could use the AC method also here. Okay, so let's try that again. Plus, all right. If you distribute this out, you're going to get 2x squared. You're going to get negative 3x and a positive 5x. And that, I'm sorry, not negative 3x, of course not. Negative 2x. 2 times x is 2x. Okay, so 2x, that's a negative 2x. So anyways, positive 5x, negative 2x, that's going to add to this. So yes, this is correctly factored. All right, and so we could have said 2x using factoring. We solve by factoring. 2x plus 5 equals 0, and x minus 1 equals 0. Solve this one, and x equals 1. Solve this one by subtracting 5 and dividing by 2. X equals negative 5 halves. So we could have factored it there. All right, but if you didn't see that, then the quadratic formula works. Okay, so that's the key to the quadratic formula. Use it carefully, do your steps carefully, all right? Next, we'll just try some examples here and kind of get the feeling of how it works.